Okay, today we're going to go review the information over polynomials. So we're first going to go over the terms and then the degree, and then we'll go over some examples and we'll talk about adding and subtracting polynomials. So first off, whenever we talk about classifying terms, the terms is how many terms are in a polynomial. So if there's only one term, we're going to classify that as a monomial. So this only has one term. If it's a binomial, that means we have two terms. Trinomial, we have three terms. And a polynomial is four or more terms. So again, we're going to go over some further examples, but remember a term is separated by your addition or subtraction sign. So then going over our degree, whenever we were talking about degree, we want to look at our highest exponent. So if it's constant, there will be no variable. If it's linear, you have one power. That's your highest power. Quadratic, your highest power is to the second power. If it's cubic, your highest power is to the third power. And if it's quartic, your highest power is to the fourth power. If it's 5 or higher, you're going to put degree of the number or your highest exponent. Okay, so since we've gone over that, we're going to go down to the next section, and we're going to use those terms to fill in for those different types. So sorry, this kind of shifted over on here. So first one, we have 2p to the fourth plus p to the third. Terms, there's two terms, so this is a binomial. Your degree, you look at your highest exponent. Your highest exponent is 4, so this is quartic. Okay, we go to the next one. So the next one is right here. So it's kind of funky how this all shifted. So terms, you only have one term. So it is a monomial. Degree, since there's no variable, your degree is constant. Okay, moving on to the next one, we have 8p to the fifth minus 5p to the third plus 2p to the second minus 7. So we have two subtraction signs, and then, so we have two subtraction signs, and then we have an addition sign. So that means we have 5 terms. So we have that. So if 8p to the fifth, that's a term, 5p to the third is a term, 2p to the second is a term, and negative 7 is a term. So since you have 4 terms, it's a polynomial. Sorry, I'm running out of space. In degree, your highest exponent is 5, so it's going to be degree of 5. Sorry, I'm still getting used to using this pen on here. So that is our third example. Our last example is over here to the right. And again, I'm sorry that my word shifted over. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So that's classified as a polynomial. And your highest exponent is 7, so it's going to be degree of 7. So that is finishing going over our polynomials. So going over adding and subtracting, like I said before, I'm not going to go over the steps. Those are all in your notes. Please reference those. Those are on your Google Classroom. So adding and subtracting. The biggest thing with this is making sure you're going to line up your terms and lining up your same variable and exponents. So I'm first going to put 12y squared plus 17y minus 4. Then I'm going to put under it. Got to line up my terms. So I go and I look. My y squares and my y squares match up. I then have my y's. And then I have my constants. So I have to make sure I line those up. So my y squared is going to be under, I'm going to put 9y squared into that. And then I have negative 13y. And then I have plus 3. And then you add 9 plus 12 is going to give you 21. Bring down your y squared. 17 is positive and it's negative 13. So you're going to subtract them and you're going to get a positive 4y. And then you have negative 4 and a positive 3. So you're going to get a negative 1. And that is your answer. Okay, moving over to the next one. We're going to again go through and combine our like terms. So our biggest exponent is 3. We just have one of those. Next one is x squared. So we have x squared on this one. We have x squared on this one. We actually have 2 on that one, so we'll combine those. And then we have x. And then lastly, we have our constant. So in doing that, we're going to then line up our biggest x. So we get 2x to the third plus 5x squared and 7x squared. You can make 12x squared since they're both x squared. You combine them. And then plus your x. You're going to add the next one on the bottom. So you don't have an x to the third, so you're going to put 0. You have 2x to the squared minus 4x minus 12. You don't have a constant in your top one, so you can just put plus 0. Then you add them. 2x to the third plus 0 is 2x to the third. 12x squared plus 2x squared is 14x squared. Negative, I missed that x. Negative, or positive x and negative 4x is going to give you negative 3x. And then 0 and negative 12 is going to give you negative 12. And that is your answer. This should be a 3 right here. There we go. Okay, so it goes over to addition ones. Let's next move down to the subtraction ones. So again, we're going to line up our terms, except with subtraction, remember, you change your subtraction to an addition sign, and then you change all the signs in it. So if it's positive, you change to negative. If it's negative, you change to positive. So like terms, we have x to the third over here. We don't have one on the second one. We have 4x squared. We have negative 3x squared, because remember, we changed the sign. We have x and negative 7x, and we have negative 9 and negative 3. So since we already changed the sign, we can add these. So we have 6x to the third power. Ooh, that looks, sorry, I'm going to redo that. 6x x to the third minus 4x squared plus x minus 9. And then I can add, since I've already changed my sign, there's no x to the third, so I'm going to put a 0. And remember, it's a negative 3x squared since you changed that. Then negative 7x, and then a negative 3. And then you add them. So you have 6x to the third. And then negative 4 and negative 3 gives you negative 7x to the second. You have a positive x and a negative 7x, so you get negative 6x. Negative 3 and negative 9 is negative 12. And that is your answer. Moving on to the next one. Okay, first step, let's change our sign to a plus sign. Then we change each sign. So since that's a positive 2s squared, we're going to change to negative. And since that's a negative 10, or positive 10s, we can change that to negative. So, talking about our like terms, we have s squared and s squared. And then we have just one s. And then we have our constant. Negative 3. Ooh. So we don't have a constant on our second one. So this one's going to be a little bit trickier. So we're going to put negative s squared. Since there's a 10s in the second one, we're going to put plus 0. And then we're going to put our minus 3. and then we're going to add. Since we have 2s